Good morning, America. Good afternoon, Europe. Hello, all our friends of our channel, followers and subscribers. And if you're not yet, welcome to our club. For those of you who are first time here, my name is Alexander Golev. I'm the CEO of the company that runs this channel, the company called SAMexpert. We do all stuff around Microsoft cost savings, cloud management, everything except selling your Microsoft licenses. We're purely a consulting company that is targeted at minimizing costs and resolving compliance problems. So what we're going to do today is, this is a regular, hopefully again, regular update on Microsoft licensing. All the highlights of what has changed in the Microsoft licensing world in the last month. Usually we talk about only those things that we consider as consultants in this area the most critical to the vast majority of companies and organizations that consume Microsoft licenses. So let's, without further ado, I will remind you though, this is a live event, and by all means, please ask your questions in the chat. So there we go. Let's begin with what happened in May 2024, well, actually in April, and what Microsoft announced as what's happening in May 2024. And I have a few slides for this. Let me switch to the slides. Takes a bit of time. Yep, there we go. So as you can see, I took it from the Microsoft's own product terms website. As you can see, there are quite a few updates this month, but critical updates are very few. And the only widely applicable critical update here is that Microsoft finally opened up Copilot for Microsoft 365 to more Microsoft 365 and Office 365 plan subscribers. Therefore, let's begin with that. Otherwise, these updates are, as you can see them on screen, these updates may be relevant to you, may be relevant to your particular niche, but there's not much that affects a lot of companies and a lot of organizations. One thing that is for sure, I've been promising for already 2 months, and we'll come back with a special update around Power Platform, Power Automate, Power BI. Things are changing there. It's quite complex, lots of moving parts, complete reshuffle of the approach to licensing and consumption-based costs of that platform. So please bear with us. We'd like to invite very interesting guests to speak with us about that platform, people who actually live and breathe that platform. Moving on, without further ado, this is the new availability table for Copilot for Microsoft 365. We're not talking about other Copilots in the Microsoft 365 world, because there's Microsoft 365 plus Copilot. Bing Chat, former Bing Chat Enterprise. That's not a full Copilot. What I'm talking about is that Copilot that is the most feature-packed, that costs a flat rate $30 per user per month. It may be now added to the plans that are highlighted with orange, or if you are colorblind, bold font on this slide. Business Basic, Microsoft 365 F3 and F1, and Office 365 F3 and E1. Frontline worker plans. We have a video that we posted recently on this channel where we're asking, what are the use cases? It's still not really clear. So the use cases for it are still not clear. There are a few ideas flying around for what it may be used. If you have any ideas yourselves, I would appreciate if you leave a comment to either during the live or to this video. Moving on, a very, very, very big update is coming to those who use Dynamics 365. And probably you've already heard about it. This is not news. This was announced in April. Dynamics 365 is growing in price. And these are the relative price changes. To be absolutely honest here, I don't really want to blow the trumpet in terms of it's a massive increase. It's not, because this is the first increase in 5 years. In that relative term, it's not that huge. If you compare it to other products, for example, SQL has grown in price, if I'm not mistaken, by almost 25%. The problem is that it's still a price increase. It will still affect your budgets. And as this product, this set of products is taking bigger and bigger parts, bigger chunks of the entire CRM market in the world, then obviously this will be a good generator of cash for Microsoft. Microsoft that is growing incredibly quarter on quarter in their financial results. So if you use Dynamics 365, if you plan to use Dynamics 365, this is about to happen in 5 months from now, in October. Get ready. Get ready, by the way, to negotiate if you want to negotiate, because, for example, what our company does is we negotiate with Microsoft. We use all the leverage, all the tricks up our sleeves to try and get better price. A very important part of negotiation is preparation. So you've been warned. You've been warned. I'd like to spend some time on this live, a few further slides, to discuss SQL Server with Azure Arc. It's a special way to license SQL Server. Let's talk about it. Microsoft published updates to it, and it kind of came back into our focus. So these are the updates, and I encourage you not to read what's on this slide right now and just continue listening to me, because I'll explain this mumbo jumbo that they published, which baffled many experts. They couldn't understand why this is published. What are they trying to say here? So people spent days and weeks. We ourselves spent a couple of weeks trying to make sense of it, and finally we've done that. SQL Server with Azure Arc is a way to license SQL Server, which is connected to Azure billing systems, for 2 reasons. Firstly, for a regular SQL Server, the reason to have SQL Server enabled with Azure Arc is to basically pay for the time you use a SQL Server instance. We're talking about regular SQL Server instance. You connect it to the Azure Arc, and then you can pay for the time you use it. So it's if your usage of a SQL Server instance is fractional, then your costs will also be fractional. And there's very little reason, and to be honest, I still would like to know what other reasons there could be, to use an Azure Arc enabled instance, not with pay-as-you-go, but with your own licenses, using Azure Hybrid Benefit. Why would you do that? Eludes me. Because for SQL Server, a hub rarely provides a good discount. It may, I'm not saying it won't, if you use it on a consistent basis, if you don't shut it down, and then you have very good discounts on your enterprise agreement, and you only renew software assurance, so you get that license, that recurring subscription, for a fraction of a price of, for example, I would pay with our company, which is not huge. It's a boutique company. So for us, it'll be full list price. For us, using a hub for SQL Server makes almost no sense. But for somebody, maybe. Still, the main reason to use Azure Arc, especially on premises, you install SQL Server connected to Azure and you start paying per minute, is that usage per minute, where you only need it during a fraction of time. You may still, though, bring your own licenses and assign your own licenses to the instance, if, for whatever reason, you have which is, as we just discussed, not really economical in many regards. What is written here on this slide is the outsourcing terms, so BYOL. Because as you know, if you have a regular SQL Server, you can take it to a service provider. You can deploy it via specific roles on any service provider, for example, through license mobility, through software assurance, or through flexible virtualization benefit, you can deploy it on any provider, which is called authorized outsourcers, except for AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and Alibaba, which are called listed providers. That is the default for normal SQL Server. The outsourcing terms, or actually BYOL terms for SQL Server with Arc, are different. And they differ quite drastically. So firstly, let's talk about AWS and Google, the two most popular cloud platforms except for Azure. So forget Azure. Azure has its own Azure Hybrid Use benefits. Azure, potato, as usual. SQL Server with Azure Arc, in one exceptional circumstance, may be used on AWS, which is basically what they were trying to say here. And let me walk you through this. So let's have a look at the slide with highlighted keywords here. What they're saying here is, I will read now. Notwithstanding the outsourcing software management clause, which basically says you may only use licenses on third parties in accordance with either flexible virtualization benefit or license mobility in server farms. But essentially, that outsourcing software clause sets two rules for BYOL. One is, with the exception of, again, AWS, Google, and Alibaba, you may take any subscription license, any license with software assurance, and use that license to license instances on other providers, whether dedicated or shared. So that's one rule. The other rule is, for the listed providers, you may only use the so-called license mobility through software assurance, which limits the eligible products, which only limits licenses to those with software assurance. And SQL Server is one of those. With SQL Server with Azure Arc, it's different. That's why they're saying notwithstanding. Basically, forget the outsourcing software management clause. Forget it. These are new rules. And what they're saying, again, in the first paragraph, customer, which is you, I presume, may use SQL Server enabled Azure Arc on its own devices, or devices under the day-to-day management and control. Here's the first keyword, third parties. Notice, an unlimited keyword, third parties. And then they introduce exceptions. So if you are a provider and you're listening to this live, because we have a huge following except service providers, they're talking about you here. Listen carefully. And by the way, unless you are Amazon or Google, I have good news for you. They just confirmed that when SQL Server, let me switch to the next slide. So let's stay here. They just confirmed that SQL Server with Azure Arc may be deployed on provider platforms. If you are not AWS and Google and Alibaba, then in any way, with Azure Arc pay-as-you-go or with bring your own license, doesn't matter. Still the same. It may be BYOL'd. So if you're a service provider and your clients are asking you, may we deploy SQL with Azure Arc? Yes. There we go. But the unusual thing here is that if you read this carefully, so the first exception says that if SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc is licensed with software assurance or on a subscription license, not pay-as-you-go, you may only use it on authorized outsourcers, so excluding AWS, Google, and Alibaba. in more or less human language, it means that bring your own license for SQL Server with Azure Arc. Bring your own license, not pay as you go, is only allowed on any provider except for the listed providers. The second limitation is expanded. They're saying, and then if you decide to use pay as you go, then you may not use SQL Server with Azure Arc with pay as you go for unlimited visualization, again, on listed providers. So again, normal providers, no limitations. By normal, I'm saying anybody who's not, again, not AWS, not Google. Oracle Cloud, by the way, is in that list, which is allowed to use SQL Server with Azure Arc in any shape or form. BYOL, pay as you go, doesn't matter. Kyndryl, ex-IBM, is in the same place. Take your SQL with Azure Arc, deploy it on Kyndryl, by all means. But if you want to deploy SQL Server with Azure Arc on listed providers, then you must use pay as you go, and you cannot use it for unlimited visualization. Even the pay-as-you-go subscription, which allows licensing for unlimited visualization in other circumstances. Where this is concerning, which is not on this slide, so please listen carefully. Where this is concerning is that if it's a SQL Server instance without Azure Arc, then you may bring your own licenses to AWS, for example, through license mobility through software assurance. If you enable it with Azure Arc, you may not do that. So for Azure Arc, enabled SQL Server and listed providers, pay as you go on Azure Arc is the only BYOL option. Even I'm boiling, honestly, but I hope it makes sense after all this, because if you go back to the initial slide, this is gibberish. This is legalized that goes too far. The other addition that they did is on the left side here, is failover rights for SQL Server enabled with Azure Arc. That's another addition they made in April to the product terms. If you look at this addition, I'll switch to the next slide. It's one-to-one, exactly the same as for normal SQL Server. So there are no news here. They basically confirmed that whatever failover rights you already used for SQL Server, if you want to enable Azure Arc on that SQL Server, nothing changes for your failover configurations. You still have exactly the same allowances as before. So that is the third, not the third, yeah, well, it's one of the most important updates that happened in mid-April and in May 2024 with Microsoft licensing. I have one question. Geek of all trades. Good morning, Alex. Okay. Good morning. Ever thought about a monthly SPLA dedicated stream first week of the month? Since that is reporting time. That is correct, actually. You know what? I'm going to click a like on this one. I like this comment. We have starting this month. Oh, we're already mid-month, but starting very soon, we will ramp up the number of events. What we're going to do right now, this is the plan, but plans change and we're quite agile, is to run up to 6 audio events on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has an audio platform. And then for those of you who watch us on YouTube, we will summarize the best ideas and still run them as a monthly live event. Thanks for the idea about the SPLA track, because then we can start thinking maybe we should do 2 video events here on YouTube, one for providers, one not for providers. Why not? However, the provider part should be a Q&A session, because strictly speaking, nothing is changing in SPLA. There are changes to the CSP hosting program that Microsoft introduces from time to time, also quite tiny. So the biggest was that they said, you don't report to us every single product, report only 6. It was a big change, by the way. I think that I need to update, by the way, myself on that. I think we could switch to quarterly reports as opposed to monthly, and there used to be a 24-hour window to report licenses. It was increased back to 10 days as it was in the QMTH program. So those are the most critical updates that happened to CSP hoster program. And I can promise you, you can take me on that promise, that in the next 5 years, Microsoft said SPLA will remain. But the other thing they said, they're not going to change a single thing in it. It will remain static. So SPLA-related events on this channel should really be about Q&A. Therefore, if you want such an event, invite your friends, bring your questions. We always have a whole list of questions that we get on a daily basis to our support channels, free and paid. We can use those. There's always an entertaining subject. But your questions, interactive questions, make these events much more interesting and much more valuable, because then we don't have to guess what worries you. We know. You tell us. And on this fantastic note, let's finish this live. There's no reason to keep you bored and listen to my mumbo jumbo. Please subscribe to, please bear with me. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. And follow us on LinkedIn for the audio events. And by the way, for those of you who doesn't know, we republish some of this material, and also we're going to republish the audio events as podcasts. We have a podcast. How to find it? Go to our website, SAMexpert.com, Insights, Podcasts, and you'll find it there. Or you can find it on Spotify or Apple. We're there as well. Thank you for being here. Save your costs with knowledge of Microsoft licensing, as I used to say. Have a great, fantastic weekend. If you're in the United Kingdom, have a long weekend with a bank holiday. And I'll see you next on SAMexpert TV. Take care.